Simba Nest Radio, sauti ya mwananchi. Simba Nest Radio, sauti ya mwananchi.
Hello and welcome to Today in Focus, the podcast where we break down the biggest stories shaping our world today. I'm your host Jane, and today we are looking beyond Kenya to a conflict that has captured global attention and raised serious concerns about international security. We all know about the conflict that has been going on between Iran, Israel and America, and I want us to look deeper into it today. And feel welcome, and you are listening to Simba Nest Radio, sauti ya mwananchi. As we continue, you can join us on YouTube at Simba Nest Radio, and also you can send us short messages via WhatsApp number 0728 091 656. Let's begin. The tension between Iran and Israel and the United States have been escalated dramatically in recent weeks, and with missiles attacks and airstrikes and rising fears that the situation could grow into a wider regional war. But this conflict is not just about the Middle East. It could affect global oil prices. Day by day, we've been saying that the oil comes from Middle East, and also international politics, and even the cost of living in countries thousands of kilometers away, including here in Africa, also in Kenya. And the longer the war takes, we are so much at a risk of starting to cry again about the high cost of living. But let's be positive that it will end soon. And let's look at how the war started. And the latest crisis began when the United States and Israel launched joint airstrikes against Iran, targeting military and government facilities in major cities such as Tehran and Isfahan. And the attacks were meant to weaken Iran's military capability and address concerns about its influence and security threats in the region. And however, Iran responded quickly. I think that was quicker than they expected. And the country launched missile and drone attacks targeting Israel territory and US bases in the Middle East, and turning the situation into a direct military confrontation. So that's how the war started, and within days the conflict expanded, and groups allied with Iran in the region became involved, and tension spread to neighboring countries such as Lebanon. And large-scale airstrikes were reported in Beinat, forcing hundreds of thousands of civilians to evacuate their homes. And what began as targeted strikes is now becoming a regional conflict involving multiple countries and armed groups. So many of you have been wondering how this war started. So that is how. And I think America and Israel were not ready for they were not ready for Iran to answer back with missiles. I think they thought maybe they could just attack and Iran would just chill, but that was not what happened. In fact, it was the opposite of it, and now it's getting worse day by day. And this war is very important to the world, by the way. And some of you are wondering, why does conflict in Middle East affect the rest of the world? We should all know that it affects very greatly, very. And there are three main reasons. And we all know that even for us Kenyans, many Kenyans are working on in those Middle East countries. And the main reason is about the global oil supply. The Middle East produces a very large portion of the world's oil, and you underline the word large portion. And as the conflict escalated, global oil prices jumped above $90 per barrel. Oh, that is a lot of money, and this is raising fears of rising inflation worldwide. If the conflict continues, energy prices could climb even higher. Higher fuel prices affect everything. For example, transport, food prices, electricity, and also manufacturing. So even countries far away from the war could feel the economic impact, even if not, even if you don't see the missiles coming towards us, they are attacking us indirectly through the prices of, through the high cost of living. And the second thing was the rise of wider war. This conflict is not happening in isolation, as we all know. The Middle East already has many tensions involving different regional powers and alliances. Experts fear that if more countries get involved, the situation could turn into a much larger war. We just hope that no more countries will be involved in this conflict, because it might lead to a war like the First World War, of which we don't want. And financial, some analysts say this could become one of the most dangerous geopolitical crises in years. And the third reason is the global economic instability. Wars create uncertainty, and financial markets around the world have been already reacted with volatility, and some industries such as airlines have been affected by rising fuel costs. So it has already started, and investors are worrying that a prolonged conflict would bring down global economic growth, and that is the economic impact of this conflict. And let's look at the human impact of this war, of this conflict, and it's beyond politics and economics. War has a devastating human cost. Thousands of people have already been affected by the violence. Many civilians have been forced to flee their homes. As we all know, you can't just sit here while a missile is being directed to you. You'll have to run away and leave your home and look for a safer place. and many civilians have been forced to flee, and cities have faced heavy bombing and destruction, leaving families without safety, shelter, or basic services. When something like that happens, you won't have enough time to collect all your households or all your things so that you can relocate. You just relocate with whatever you have at hand, and save your life as soon as possible. So that's the impact of this conflict to the human impact. Humanitarian organization warned that if the conflict continues, the humanitarian crisis could grow much worse. So they are still warning us that this might get worse. I don't know what you are thinking about it, but it's very concerning. And let's see what happens next, and what could happen next. There are three possible scenarios that could happen. The first one is the diplomatic negotiations. The best outcome would be negotiation between the countries involved. We ensure if America is ready to meet with Iran and make peace. I think it's kind of difficult. And international organization and world leaders are already calling for dialogue and de-escalation. And number two is the continued military escalation. If attacks continue, the conflict could spread further across the region, and this could involve more countries and create a prolonged war. And the third one is the global political shift. And major conflicts often reshape international alliances and global power structures. And this war could influence global politics for years to come. A Simbanese radio or Simbanese TV listener, I don't know your opinion on this conflict. You can share your messages or your SMSs via our number 0728 091 656, and on all social media platforms at Simbanese Radio. Also, you can view us through YouTube. We are live. Let's conclude on this topic of today. The growing conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran is not just a regional issue. It's a global story affecting politics, economies, and the lives of millions of people. From rising oil prices to fears of a wider war, the consequences could reach far beyond the Middle East. And as the world watches closely, the hope remains that diplomacy will prevail and prevent further escalation. Wenye huomba, those who praise and their prayers are answered. Let's pray. Let's pray for those countries, and let's pray for peace. We don't want war. We don't want to ruin the lives that have been built by our fathers, by the fathers of our fathers all those years, because of just silly things. Let's just pray for peace, and let's encourage peace. that will be all for today in today's podcast, Today in Focus. This is a show where we break down the biggest stories, and that's it for today. Let's just pray for peace and pray that everything turns out to be good. I've been your host, Jane, and you are listening to Simba Nest Radio, and thank you for choosing us. And have a nice weekend and have a good day.
Simba Nest Radio, sauti ya mwananchi.